Welcome to July. There will be football.
I honestly had to double check to make sure I wasn't getting like NBA Centel by Ari Mirov. Steelers are the vanilla flavor of the NFL. So they're always hitting. They're always there. This is an oxymoron for the Steelers to be making massive moves back to back to back like this. It looks like they're going all in. TJ Watt. Why are we not talking about that?
Mike McDaniel down in Miami. This experiment might be running its course. Yeah, I mean, I can't get guys to come to meetings on time. It's like, yo, that's your fault as the head coach. You're trying to blame the play. It's you. They don't respect you as a head coach. Who's stopping this new offense? A single concussion.
And just because it didn't turn out the way that you wanted or anybody else wanted doesn't mean that you get to retcon that and make people feel bad for you. You're taking a $52 million option.
Speaking of a guy I actually kind of feel a little bit bad for, with an asterisk because he's going to get paid $22 million a year for the next 5 years for doing nothing, is Damian Lillard, because the Bucks are waiving him. This guy literally came back from a blood clot for you guys during the playoffs, and this is the result. After he tears his Achilles, then, oh yeah, by the way, you're cut.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel, dude.
Light at the end of the tunnel. Speaking of like the shows and stuff, did you see the trailer? Or there's the new season of Quarterback is coming out.
Oh, I know. I'm so pumped. Clearly, dude, season 2 was okay, right?
Yeah.
Compared to season 1, it was just it wasn't up to snuff. Like, receivers are good. I think they spread out the storytelling a little too thin. So let's get back to the quarterbacks. That's where all of the drama is. Like, that's where all the money is, the drama, all the ins and outs. Like, let's get back to it.
Dude, speaking of Sentinel, did you see when they first released like a teaser for season 2 of Quarterback, and they made it, they made like a fake trailer at the start of the trailer? It's showing that they're going to do season 2 is of the mascots. And so they were like, Did you see that? Did you see that? And I got Sentinel, dude. I responded. I quote tweeted that and I said, really? We're going from quarterback to mascot? We can't even go to some defensive. I got totally Sentinel and catfish there. So I'm glad it's dude. You know, we grew up on the internet. I shouldn't have been so gullible, but they got me with that.
Man, now you got to change your profile picture to one of those like sunglasses and like really close selfies that all the old people on Facebook have.
All the guys in the car just believing everything. I'm going to be one-shotted by any sort of AI image or video and thinking it's real. Oh, you're right. Well, you know what's not AI, dude? Okay, it's actually real. Is the big trade with the Steelers. Minkah Fitzpatrick going down to Miami and Jalen Ramsey coming to the Steelers. Let me throw this up right here. This is kind of a big blockbuster trade, dude. This is like sort of, I mean, they say right here, Adam Schefter says it's the rare kind of player for player trade. Like, we don't really see that so often anymore. Two big names, two guys have done like a lot in the league. What's your take on this? Because I got a few things to say about the Steelers. You know, I'm really hypercritical of the Steelers. I think that their success, it's kind of this artificial creation or artificial view of success. What's your take?
Steelers are the vanilla flavor of the NFL. So they're always hitting. They're always there. This is an oxymoron for the Steelers to be making massive moves back to back to back like this. It looks like they're going all in. It's win or bust for this year. And that's just so not the Steelers, which is nuts.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, this tweet says they're an old age home. Aaron Rodgers, 41. Cam Hayward, 36. That's impressive. Cam Hayward, 36. Still, like, for defensive linemen, like, it's different at quarterback. All right. Like being in the trenches. Darius Slay's 34. You know, even Jalen Ramsey's 30. Which, what do you think about the Jalen Ramsey situation? Like, because I've seen some criticism from people just going, oh, it's just, you know, he's past his prime. It's a big splashy name. Do you think it'll really add like that value to the Steelers?
I think it will. I think Jalen's got a bad rap in terms of people saying he's past his prime. I think what happened is he ended up in Miami where there was just so much going on. There were so many flashy names, so many flashy dudes, so many other things outside of football that just take the storylines or the headlines away from somebody like him and his play. And like his production, in terms of other years prior to him joining there, may have dipped a little bit, but that doesn't mean that he's washed up. Like, the guy is still a top 5 or top 10, if not top 5 DB in the league right now. And I mean, his age, he's 30, but that he's still got so much left in the tank. And they weren't performing; they were falling apart. He was just like, okay, why am I going to break my back, risk a lot of my potential to see this organization continue to fail?
Dude, with Miami, man, I don't know what to make of them. I feel like, all right, for all of my criticisms, and a lot of it's kind of joking with Mike Tomlin. I mean, he is
Yeah.
a fantastic coach. Uh, and one of the things that I think he's the best in the league at, or one of the best in the league at, is like being an adult and culture building.
Mm.
Whereas Mike McDaniel down in Miami, I don't know, man. This experiment might be running its course to me. Like they had a lot of success in his first couple years there, but this like young hip just being really cool with the players culture, it's not really working down there. Also you hear all the stuff about like, yeah, I mean, I can't get guys to come to meetings on time. It's like, yo, that's your
Yeah.
fault as the
Yeah.
head coach. You trying to blame the play? That's you. They don't respect you as a head coach. So I know what you're saying about that. What's your take on Miami?
I think it's more of an organizational thing.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of things coming out of even the Flores debacle. I think there's something under the surface that we're just not seeing. And I think it's just easy to point, like I said, to McDaniel saying, that's the reason why. And obviously, when you get a lot of dudes with names and egos in the locker room, if you don't contain that and your organization is not structured like a Steelers or the Patriots of old or even of new with Vrabel at the helm, like it's one of those things where you don't, like it could run amok really quickly. And it looks like we're seeing that in Miami, and we've been seeing that.
Yeah. Okay. A convenient defense of your fellow Yale Bulldog right there. Very, very convenient. This is when people are criticizing the Steelers. However, look, this is funny. So for those just listening, the tweet is, you know, that person in your fantasy league that drafts a bunch of big name players who were in their prime 5 years ago. Yeah, that's the Steelers. So that's what I mean. They're joking, but there is a little bit of truth to that. I mean, especially when you add in the Aaron Rodgers situation, who's 41 and was, I mean, let's face it, not incredible in New York the last couple of years. I know coming off the injury, but who knows? Maybe his stint in Pittsburgh will be equivalent of the Brett Favre stint in Minnesota. You know, both quarterbacks going from Green Bay, going to the Jets, and it sucks, and then getting out of there quickly and then having a successful final year somewhere else. I mean, do you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have that kind of success?
I think so. I think the Steelers are they're turning into like the wild hogs of the NFL, just the old Tim Allens, just one more ride, you know? Yeah. I think Aaron's got one more up his sleeve. I mentioned this an episode or two ago where him getting into an organization that is once again just about ball and properly structured. There's no chaos really going on in the building. You know, they may perform to different levels on the field, but that's more manageable and more corrective than say anything going on in the front office or even at the ownership level. Like when you have problems there, that's where things start trickling down and you start seeing those effects actually impact what goes on the field. And that's crazy to have off-field stuff really impact, outside of the locker room dudes. So I think Aaron in a new environment such as this with a coach such as Tomlin, he's no nonsense. Not that the other guys weren't. Like, it's just all he has to do is focus on ball. And he's even admitted that. That's all he's going to worry about is just, hey, I know this is my time is near. I'm just going all in here. And it seems like the Steelers are doing the exact same thing to help him out.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, also like getting a guy like DK Metcalf, who, look, DK is extremely talented, but however, he's also a guy that maybe has a little bit of we'll call it personality, can get a little whiny, can get a little moody. So, but I think a guy like Tomlin probably won't stand for that and can maybe really button that up, zip that up. So you're not going to have any of those kind of tantrums that we saw in Seattle. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Tomlin has a track record of handling, call it big ego wide receivers in the past. You got AB, Antonio Brown, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got, a number of dudes. Yeah, George Pickens. I mean, he's had to deal with a lot. And I have a feeling like DK, while he's in that cohort, he's probably on the lower end of being that crazy. So I think for the most part, yeah, when the wheels start falling off within those guys and those egos and everything, it's very clear that the Steelers are willing to move off of them, and they move off of them quickly. I think Tomlin has shown that he's at least able to keep the cap on the crazy for at least a season, maybe two. So that's really what they need right here is if they're going all in this year, all they have to do is just be like, DK, just lock it in. Lock it in for 17, 18 weeks, please.
I think if he's getting the ball and Aaron Rodgers and him, I mean, we've seen them like even before it was announced that Aaron Rodgers was going to Pittsburgh. Apparently they knew it for a long time because like it was back in, I don't know, like February or something when Aaron Rodgers and DK were in LA throwing together, spotted doing that. A bunch of rumors started. All right. This is interesting, however. And this is nothing new, but it just adds to it. With the Ramsey deal, the Steelers are spending $179 million on defensive players, which is number one in the NFL by $29 million. Plus, they say if you throw in Tomlin's $20 million salary, because he's a defensive guy, $200 million spent on D. But this is nothing new. They've been that team. They've been that organization for years and years. Can you guess which team in the NFL is spending the least on defense?
I think this one's a shock too, isn't it? Isn't it?
I was
Philly.
shocked. It is Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm throwing this up right here. Philly is paying $65 million. They're spending $65 million on their defense. And look, this to me speaks to just elite GMing, because they had a great defense last year and will presumably have a pretty good defense again this year. And it's like, well, last year Howie Roseman was able to get guys like Zach Bond for what did Zach Bond make? $1.5 million? One of the best linebackers in the league. So this goes back, dude, to like the video that you put out on Friday also is the GM or the coach? What is adding more value in today's game? And it's just interesting to see the Super Bowl champ do the complete opposite of what the Steelers are doing. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's the complete opposite. They're dumping all the money in the offensive side of the ball. They paid Jalen Hurts like none other. It's crazy the approach that Roseman's had. He's essentially just gobbled up the defense of the Georgia Bulldogs for the past 2-3 seasons. I think that actually speaks to Sirianni's capabilities too, though, getting young talent and getting them to perform to that level. So like, I think Philly's a really interesting thing. I think Roseman, his strategy has been incredible, but I think the only way in which that has come to fruition in terms of success is because of Sirianni's culture building, as we were, cutting against like what we were talking about with McDaniel there. I think he's able to actually build a culture and make it feel real. The Steelers have always been known for defense, the Iron Curtain, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not terribly surprising because outside of them spending a bunch of money, even on offense and just in general on their roster, like there's got to be something that's staying true to the Steeler way. And this is clearly the Steeler way.
Yeah, that is true. We got one more thing where we were just talking about the Dolphins here. The other thing that made the news is Darren Waller's coming out of retirement and he signed with the Dolphins, bolster their offense, their tight end room right here. But I hate these tweets. It's like, who is stopping this Dolphins new offense right here? So like Darren Waller coming out. Who does that? They've got Tua right there. And I saw a bunch of the replies to this. He goes, who's stopping this new offense? A single concussion. It's just like, these got to just be like engagement bait. I think a lot of defenses are going to stop this offense right here. What do you make of it with Darren Waller?
I think this is a headline. I don't know to what degree there's a value add because he's been out of the league so long. And even when he was in the league the past year, 2 years, it's been really up and down, more the latter than the former. So it's, like, I don't know if the Dolphins truly improved. They've just been such a question mark for the past 3 seasons because they can start out the hottest in the NFL. Like, what was it? 2 seasons ago, they scored 70 game 1. And then I don't know if they scored 70 points the rest of the season.
Yeah, dude, they were just, they are a completely different offense when Tua is out versus when he's healthy. But hey, he's out quite a bit. And then also them in the AFC East, the Dolphins are going to be in even more trouble. Like, Patriots are going to be probably a pretty damn good team now with Mike Vrabel there. And that, like, they've got a lot of things going on for them. And so they're going to have some struggle within the division as well, or some extra struggle. So I don't know. Also, like Darren Waller, he retired because of the concussion stuff, right? But then also he wanted to pursue music too. It's like, how into it are you actually? You want to go to Miami to work on your hip hop career?
Probably. Yeah.
Mike McDonald, you know how he is, he's going to be allowing this in the locker room. It's just, this is the culture. It's just, yeah, man, let's do some rap battles at halftime.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, like, you might be onto something there. Going to Miami is a way in which he can fund his outside extracurricular career in the rap world. And yeah, he had like the falling out, the divorce with Kelsey Plum and all that kind of stuff. He was also in the news for that. And, to what degree it was because of concussions. Like, he was also recently, it was going viral. He was on some podcast that was talking about like, oh yeah, like I decided to retire when I was playing against the Bills.
On the specific play.
Yeah. Cause he was having to play like H-back, fullback sort of positions and lead blocking and everything like that. And I mean, to be frank, having played, like, a lot of that looked pretty innocuous, like, pretty run-of-the-mill sort of
Yeah, dude.
like,
Like,
I didn't see him get knocked out, like, I didn't even see him make, like, huge contact, so it's just kind of like, yeah, is your heart in it? Like, because football is one of those games, like, right, you can't play boxing, right? That's one of the famous
true,
quotes from Snoop Dogg when he's talking about, one of the
true.
celebrity matches. Football, I think, is one of those games that you really can't you really have to be bought in. You have to be like 100% willing to sacrifice your body in the moment in time, because if you don't, dude,
You
the
cannot
consequences
play
are real.
you cannot play this game casually
Yeah.
or not 100% in mentally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just a Fugazi signing, everyone excited, a guy coming out of retirement. I don't think it's really going to make too much of a difference.
Why is it always tight ends too? Why, or it
Yeah,
seemingly is always tight ends that retire, come back in. Like,
it's like
what is going on?
Travis Kelce the last few years. I know he's never like said he's retired, like, but it's been rumored, and then
Yeah.
Gronk, of course. Although Gronk, some of his was like strategic fake
Oh
retirement.
yeah.
You know, like the Lions, which all right, this was a few years ago. This is when the Lions still sucked, so I
Yeah.
understand it. He didn't want to. He heard he was going to get traded. He trades. No, I'm retired. Finesse.
No.
Finesse it. All right. Speaking also of older stars, okay, and just to touch on it, we touched on it previously, is the Lakers, and NBA free agency is going on right now, and the Lakers are getting kind of a lot of flack. You're seeing some teams make a lot of big moves in free agency. And here, for those just listening, got this is expectation of Lakers free agency, and it's got a bunch of exciting possible signings here, and then the reality is LeBron and Bronny and JJ Redick is a podcaster or a broadcaster coming in, because he always gets flack for just being a media guy here. What's your take on the Lakers situation? Because there's been a few other kind of quotes that have come out that have really supported what we were talking about the other day of like, hey, are the Lakers themselves about to move off on LeBron? Like it's almost sounds like, hey, LeBron has no influence here anymore. He's 40 years old. We're building for the future.
Yeah, I think reality is setting in. Going back to LeBron's agent, Rich Paul, and like what he was talking about the other day. I think there's an understanding from LeBron's standpoint that Luka is the face of the franchise moving forward. Granted, he's still there, and I think I mentioned that he may be threatened by that, even though he may say all the right things. I think honestly, we're talking about egos. We're talking about prime athletes, all that kind of stuff. There's a frustration there I can sense from LeBron. And I think part of that frustration is coming out in his selection of the option. I don't think he's moving on because he took the option, but at the same time, like, the Lakers are crazy because they got rid of Finney Smith as well. And now there's talks about them picking up a big man in Brook Lopez or one of the Lopez twins. I always blank on which one it is, but bringing one of them in. And so like, I think LeBron, like he wants to see his career end on the right note, but there's also a part of him that's just like kind of F these guys. And I get that sense that him taking that option was making that clear.
Like he does say all the right things like in the media there, but I'm getting the sense that as well. I mean, it'd be hard, like think about that, being in a position. I mean, I know we put a lot of these guys on pedestals all the time, but it's a human being with human being emotions, and like who wouldn't kind of feel a little some type of way, like everything I've done, everything I've built, and then you kind of got this, new young star coming in, you want to move off me. So those type of feelings are for sure inside. I mean, you just can't deny it.
The problem I have with LeBron, as I mentioned last episode, is that in the moment, you can commiserate with his feeling right there. But at the same time, it's like, it's not as though they didn't talk to you about moving off of AD and bringing in Luka and doing all these things. So it's like, I think it's very convenient for you to say that at this point in time and just totally dismiss or not acknowledge the fact that you may have had a hand in that decision at the point in time. And just because it didn't turn out the way that you wanted or anybody else wanted, doesn't mean that you get to retcon that and make people feel bad for you when you're taking a $52 million option.
I feel bad for him, dude. I feel bad for him. $52 million. Well, speaking of a guy I actually kind of feel a little bit bad for, with an asterisk, because he's going to get paid $22 million a year for the next 5 years for doing nothing, is Damian Lillard, because the Bucks are waiving him. They still got $113 million on his contract, so as I said, he's going to get that $22 million a year for the next 5 years. But Brenna Green, who we interviewed on the show last week, who's a sports journalist, she had an interesting tweet here, a good tweet. I mean, she's like a Portland Trailblazers fan, so obviously a lot of Blazers people are very emotionally connected to Damian Lillard. She said, "This is exceptionally cruel in my mind, but what do I know? The guy literally came back from a blood clot for you guys during the playoffs, and this is the result. After he tears his Achilles, then oh yeah, by the way, you're cut." What do you make of this? I mean, is it a kind of a boo-hoo sad, or is just, hey, that's the reality of this of professional sports? And look, man, you're still getting paid a shit ton of money.
Yeah, it's a mix of both there. Like being a Dame fan, I don't think he's gotten the flowers he probably deserves in his career because he is lights out, and he was just pigeonholed in a very middling at best, Trailblazers organization over the past 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Which is tough. But at the end of the day, like, they have to make business decisions. He's older, tore his Achilles. Like, you gotta make moves when the timing's right, and it hurts, but it has to happen. I mean, you look at the Colts, what they had to do with freaking Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
Peyton Manning got cut.
Yeah,
like it hurts, but it's a reality in all these sports.
That's the nature of professional sports. That's why you're compensated at such a high level. That's why you're getting all this money, because it is so cutthroat, which sucks. This is something that I always point to when I'm talking about, it's like the European League of Football or football in Europe, is like, there's still a lot of this cutthroat. Hey, you're cut, we're moving off you, this American guy who moved all the way across the world to make pennies compared to professional athletes in America. And it's like, now that's sad, because you're not making $10 million a year.
Oh, yeah.
For your whole life. You're making $2,500 a month or a stipend or something. And you're just like, yo, what? You're going to cut me like this? So I never really feel bad for guys that are playing in these big, real professional leagues. I do feel bad for guys in some of the European leagues who find themselves in this situation.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing I am surprised with, and this kind of cuts against what I was just saying, but I am surprised that they made the initial investment on this experiment with Dame, knowing his age, knowing where he was in his career, all that kind of stuff, just a few years ago, and being able to pull the cord on it when there was so much money invested into it. It's like, don't you want to just see how this plays out a little bit? Like, maybe he has one more stretch of magic in him, Dame time, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, run it back. He seems to be a great locker room guy. I mean, clearly Giannis loves him.
Yeah, Giannis was pissed. There was a bunch of things coming out that he was really upset by it.
It's like, and already your relationship with Giannis is somewhat rocky in the way in which things are handling. So, like, what are you doing? Are you just trying to blow this whole thing up by moving Dame first, and then hopefully that would push Giannis to make his decision so that you don't have to make it?
Who knows? Who knows, dude? I don't know what goes on in these people's minds. Speaking of big money, SGA signed his deal, the 4-year, what is it, 280 something million. So that makes him the highest annual average value of a contract in history of the big sports in American professional sports. Sitting there at 71.2 million a year. You look at some of those other names that are on the list. For those just listening, through up a list of like the top 6 paid AAV athletes, regardless of league. You got Jason Tatum up there, Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Davis, Giannis. And then the one that sticks out to me that feels like, is he bringing the same kind of value is Dak. I don't know. Is the 12th best quarterback in the NFL worthy of being on this list? What do you make of these numbers, and also specifically also the Dak thing?
The numbers are really hard to wrap your head around. I mean, unbelievable. We're going to have the first $100 million a year guy, I would say, in the next 5 years. This is insane how much these guys are getting paid per year. I think the breakdown is that SGA was getting paid like $425 a second. It's insane to think about. But you're right. Looking at this list, this makes sense that he's getting this dollar amount because he's young. Trajectory has only been exponential for him. So the future is super bright. And I would definitely see an organization paying this. The other guys outside of Ohtani are huge question marks. Don't get me wrong. They're all incredible, but have they produced to the same level as an athlete like an Ohtani,
right,
an SGA? Like, I don't know. And to your point, Prescott, definitely at the bottom of that list. AD,
What?
right there with him.
Yeah, AD. I mean, you have to, take into account some of the injuries and stuff like that. But still, I mean, that's part of it because what we're talking about here is the value that you provide in the organization. Of course, it's your performance, but also the star power that you have. Are you on the floor? Are you on the field? Do you think, when I look at this, do you think SGA's camp when negotiating this? Because it's 1 million more than Shohei. Do you think they had it in their mind like we want the highest AAV of all time? Or do you think that this is just chance?
Yeah. OKC's like, we want to prove that we can pay like the big markets.
Yeah, we can pay like Los Angeles. We got Dodgers money.
Yeah. There's a one-upmanship. Like you see it even in like we're witnessing it here because we didn't even bring it up, which is insane. TJ Watt and what's going on there with the Steelers.
Yeah, true.
Why are we not talking about that? Like this
Yeah.
is a top 3 dude, if not the top guy. And we're looking at Micah Parsons about to get absolutely broke off. You had Myles Garrett getting broken off as well. This happens all the time in contracts and like people saying like, oh, well, that guy's getting that. I want $100K more just so I can be that highest paid, have that title for a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, for 6 days, I was the highest paid player of all time. It's like, is that really Matt? Because every couple of months, a new guy's going to be getting a contract that beats that. It's like, is it really that important to have that title for 5 minutes? Apparently it is. Okay. This is kind of random here, Scott, but moving on to our next stuff. We didn't get the chance ever to talk to you really about like the Caitlin Clark situation because you were off on paternity leave, and Mike and I talked about it a little bit here. But then also Sophie Cunningham, her teammate, who became like a beloved national treasure a couple of weeks ago when she defended Caitlin Clark on the floor physically, like grabbed another team and was physically defending her. Sophie Cunningham is now back in the news, not so beloved, because of her comments about your city, Scott, okay? Because the WNBA said that they are going to expand, and she said this, and this is going crazy viral. A lot of people have stuff to say about it. I want to get your thoughts. Let me play this 50 seconds.
Because it is helpful. It's way more helpful. You just get more perks, more opportunities. And so I get that aspect. But I also think that you want to listen to your players too. Like, where do they want to play? Where are they going to get excited to play and draw fans? And I do think that Miami would have been a great one. Like, everyone loves Florida. Nashville is an amazing city. Kansas City, amazing opportunity. There's a huge arena downtown that no one's using. And I think that the Women's Soccer League is showing that, like, people draw, and so I'm not so sure what the thought process is there. But at the end of the day, you also want to make sure that you're not expanding our league too fast. I think that's also another thing, that you don't want teams to totally dominate and then have teams that aren't. And so I just think that it's kind of a hard decision-making team or situation. But man, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cincinnati. NBA side, because it is.
Did the disrespect.
Oh my.
Okay.
Good.
I pulled this up because there were so many quote tweets of this with like stuff like this. We're throwing up this guy, Brad Stainbrook. I'm so sick and tired of people who've never set foot in Cleveland acting like they know the city. It's got heart. It's got culture. Some of the best and most passionate sports fans anywhere. This is a lazy take. And we could have put up any number of quote tweets with like similar sentiment here, kind of bashing her. Also, just so embarrassed. You said the wrong city too. What do you make of this? Because this is actually kind of a common thing, I think. A lot of people, there's a lot of Cleveland bashing. And mostly from me on this show.
And Mikey, I feel it. Look, man, it's nothing new. I find it to be very naive and nearsighted of her to say things of that nature, because I don't think she's taking into account, if you go into those markets that she mentioned, Nashville, Miami, the amount of competition that you have to grab eyeballs is insanely high. Like, and she's also saying this from a position of being in Indianapolis, which for all intents and purposes is akin to those two cities that she said. And the fact that they're having the eyeballs and the success and the growth there shows that, like, honestly, it does kind of matter where you are. And going into communities where there are true deep sports fandom, and during the years in which your season is going on, like you look at in Cleveland, like when basketball season's going on, like it's dreary. It is dark. It is cold. It's in an arena, so people go and they get to enjoy it and they fall in love with it and they cheer their team on, and then all that kind of stuff. So like there's an element of going to these cities, which I also think had WNBA teams in the past. So there's also a precedent. There's also while it may be dilapidated, but it's an infrastructure for having a fan base. And now that the league has come back to prominence or reached a new pinnacle, like having those having the league breathe new life into those decrepit organizations only makes sense. So like, I think this is just nearsighted of her. I think they're like, their stomachs or their eyes are too big for their stomach, like, and I think they're getting a little ahead of themselves. Like, if you want to grow properly, you should go to these markets and really, really build fan bases that will be loyal to a fault sometimes.
Yes, absolutely, dude. And also, I think that is such a lazy, like, oh, we should go to Miami. Like, what a cool city. It's just like, yo, first of all, there's so many other sports teams going on down there. There's the beach, sunny. Like, you probably actually wouldn't have as much success in Miami as you would in Cleveland. I think that you would build a more loyal fanship, whatever the term is, going to a city like Cleveland.
Yeah, making like, obviously they did their market research, and it points to the direction of like the deep fandom that they have for even terrible teams. Like, Cleveland loves bad teams, and they love them, like I said, to a fault. Like, all of this is making sense. You go to those markets that have true loyalty to their teams, even when they're garbage for decades.
There we go. You guys, that's a good way to end on that. You guys love your bad teams. Or your bad teams. Okay. Yeah. Last thing was, we're talking about going into new markets here. Okay. And this one is, that one was near and dear to your heart, Scott. This one's near and dear to my heart. Okay. Cool. New market for, drumroll please, the Pacific 12 Conference, the Pac-12, adding the Texas State Bobcats. Okay. And now this means they officially have 8 football playing schools, which was the minimum that they needed to participate in FBS football, because they had Gonzaga as well, or have Gonzaga, but obviously they don't have a football team. So now with Texas State, they are a viable FBS conference. So here we go. We've got these squads: Texas State, Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Oregon State, Utah State, Washington State, and Fresno State. Apparently the criteria for being in the new Pac-12 is you have state in your name. I think this is the most consistent conference in terms of names that we've got in college sports. What do you make of this? I've got a lot of feelings about it. I mean, I'm excited about it. It's great that they're going to be playing football, Pac-12 football. It's weird also that it's a bunch of new teams, and also football organizations or football programs that maybe we'll call are on the come up, or not seen as, these kind of blue chip or top tier programs when you look at, what used to be in the Pac-12. What do you make of it?
Look, you got to survive. So this is a business decision they needed in order to get teams like Boise State some serious shine. Because, to be frank, I think of those teams, like Boise State had the most recent success. Oregon State is always primed and ready to really make a run. Right. You have, Washington State as well. Like, there are some historically decent teams and organizations that have opportunity. And so, like, making a play like this, bringing in somebody who may be lesser known, let's put it that way, not lower level, but just lesser known to the general public, only makes sense from a business standpoint. It may not bring the eyes because of them, but at least get you into the playing field with those 8 teams. Maybe that gets you a bigger TV contract down the road. So it's a business decision that they needed to make. I'm surprised that it was Texas, because, like, obviously the geography doesn't matter in these.
Has been thrown out the window. Yeah. These people have never looked at a map.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it wasn't somebody like a New Mexico State or a New Mexico, somebody that was a little closer in that regard. Yeah. But all in all, I think this is a plus, especially for the guys, for the kids who are coming up, the players getting an opportunity to say they're part of the Pac-12, where if they went to Texas State prior to, they never would have been able to say. So there's something to this, and I think it's a fine move. I don't know if it will play out to their benefit, but it's an opportunity that they otherwise didn't have if they didn't bring them in.
Yeah, and at least the Pac-12 brand still lives on right now. So, but the one thing I don't like is now the Pac-12 used to be, one of the Power 5 conferences. It's no longer in that conversation, because now the new Pac-12 is getting compared to the Mountain West, which, no offense to the Mountain West, but it was never a premier conference really. Which of these two conferences, I'm going to toggle back and forth between them, which of these two, let's think like specifically maybe football wise. Which do you think is a more interesting and intriguing football conference? Because in the Mountain West, you got teams like Air Force, New Mexico, UTEP, Wyoming, Nevada, and UNLV. What do you think? Hawaii. Don't forget Hawaii.
There have been years where the Mountain West has had a team or two that have just way outpaced the expectations. So like that is a reality that's happened. UNLV has had a good squad fairly recently. Nevada has had some pretty solid teams in the past as well. Air Force blip on the radar every once in a while with their triple option stuff. So like there is good competition to be had in the Mountain West. But I think on a whole, with those three that I mentioned, automatically, even Colorado State has had pretty solid teams. Fresno State, I think right off the bat, Pac-12 takes the cake here.
Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, the more I agree with you there. I mean, just because, like the Oregon State and Washington State were never even like the big names in the former Pac-12, but they do have kind of that staying power and that history, and so there's that history and tradition there, and they've had their own fair share of success.
Yeah,
they've always kind of been. That's the other thing. A lot of these are kind of the little brother university in their state. Oregon State is often this. Washington State compared to Washington. Boise State runs Idaho. They got that. The Utah State going against Utah. And so there's a lot of guys that a lot of programs that kind of have a chip on their shoulder. So I think it kind of creates an interesting culture conference-wise of a lot of football programs that are a little bit underdog mentality, which could make for interesting football. In all sports.
Yeah. This is the situation where, the older brother, you never experienced this, but the older brother finally graduated high school and is off to college playing sports. And now it's your high school team to dominate and take over. That's what this Pac-12 is. The little brothers are finally at the helm.
This is you when Sean graduated Jesuit and went off to college, right?
Oh yeah. I felt like, this is my team.
This is the only Williams at Jesuit High School now. Scott Williams. Okay? That's the only one that matters. And then Eric Kim. All right. So there we have it. Happy that the Pac-12 is alive and we'll be playing football. All right. Good stuff. We got 30 days, 29 days until NFL preseason starts. The drought's almost over. I will say, dude, there's good ELF football in the drought. Okay. In the summer months here. I'm broadcasting a game this weekend, actually.
Ooh.
The Vienna Vikings versus the Prague Lions. I will be on the call from right here remotely. Okay.
Where is the game?
It is, I think it's in Vienna or Prague. I actually haven't started my research yet.
Beautiful cities. Prague.
Beautiful Central European cities. They were, they were kind of untouched by the war. They've got great architecture.
Yeah.
There we have it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you on the next one. We hope you have a great 4th of July. Happy Independence Day for all of our American viewers. And we will see you soon.